All right, let's dive right in. We're going to break down 5 really crucial lessons for men trying to navigate the modern world. And let's get one thing straight right from the start. This isn't about the biology of being male. Nope, this is about the challenge, the journey of actually becoming a man.
So that brings up the big question, right? What does it even mean to be a man today? See, being born male, that's just biology. But becoming a man? Well, that's different. It's a status you have to earn. You have to prove it through action. In pretty much every culture throughout history, a man's value ultimately boils down to one simple question. What can you do?
And this whole journey gets even trickier because of the crazy mixed messages society sends our way. I mean, just look at this. On one side, you're told, be a tough provider, go conquer the world. But then on the other, it's, be a sensitive partner, be emotionally available. You hear, don't ever show weakness, but in the same breath, you need to be in touch with your feelings. It's like you're constantly walking a tightrope.
So, to make sense of all this, we're going to follow a pretty clear path. First, we'll tackle what's called the manhood dilemma. Then, we'll get into the really deep work, mastering your inner world. After that, we'll see how to apply that to the outside world. And finally, we'll tie it all together with the most important piece of the puzzle, your driving force.
So what exactly is this manhood dilemma? Well, it's his challenge of having a less defined path. Men really have to forge their own identities, as a warrior, an artist, an entrepreneur, whatever it is. And that journey, it often comes without a safety net if things don't work out. All right, so that leads us right into our second section, which is really the foundation for everything else, mastering your inner world. This is where the real work begins. And it all starts with 2 fundamental ideas: building self-respect and gaining impulse control.
This is such a powerful way to think about it. Imagine your self-respect is like the immune system for your mind, for your consciousness, right? A strong immune system in your body fights off viruses. Well, strong self-respect, it protects you from all the bad stuff. Negative habits, dead-end jobs, toxic relationships. It is your absolute first line of defense. Okay, so how do you actually build it? It comes down to 2 pillars. The first one is self-belief. You get this by deliberately putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and getting through them. You're proving to yourself, hey, I can handle this. The second pillar is self-acceptance, and this one's tough. It's about being brutally honest in just owning your darkest truths and your deepest insecurities.
And this is where things get really interesting. The moment you stop trying to hide your flaws and you just own them, they lose all their power over you. In fact, they can flip and become your greatest strengths because you completely disarm anyone who might try to use them against you.
You see this perfectly in the movie 8 Mile. It's what I call the Eminem strategy. In that final rap battle, he takes every single insult his opponent was about to throw at him, and he says it about himself first. He owns his whole situation. And by doing that, he leaves his rival with literally nothing to say. The lesson there is huge. Face your own flaws, and nobody can ever use them as a weapon against you.
Okay, so let's shift to the second inner skill, and this one builds right on top of self-respect. We're talking about impulse control. This is all about mastering your actions, what you consume, and even your thoughts. And in a world that is just designed for endless distraction, this is an absolute superpower.
Now, to really get this, we got to talk a little brain science. Just think of your brain like a car. You've got an accelerator. That's your limbic system. It's the part that's always seeking rewards, new things, and taking risks. It's what pulls you toward junk food or porn or just endlessly scrolling on your phone. Then you have the brakes. That's your prefrontal cortex. It's the part that controls those impulses and lets you think about the long term.
Now here's the kicker. For young men, that accelerator is fully developed. It's firing on all cylinders. But the brakes, that prefrontal cortex, it doesn't fully finish developing until your mid to late 20s. So you've got this developmental imbalance, and it creates this natural pull towards being impulsive and taking risks. Now, for our ancestors, that was useful, right? It encouraged them to go explore. But in our modern world, with constant cheap dopamine hits everywhere, it's a massive challenge to overcome.
So, once you start getting a handle on your inner world, you can begin to apply that strength to all the challenges on the outside. This brings us to our third section, mastering your outer world. And the third lesson is this: do one hard thing every single day. Think of controlled stress like a vaccine. When you intentionally expose yourself to something uncomfortable, like a cold shower, a really tough workout, or public speaking, you're actually training your nervous system to stay calm under pressure. You're literally building up your resilience for when real, uncontrolled stress shows up in your life.
This practice actually leads to a really powerful idea from the Bhagavad Gita. It's a concept called titiksha. And what it means is the ability to endure opposites, pleasure and pain, heat and cold, without being emotionally knocked off your feet. The goal isn't to avoid discomfort. The goal is to become so mentally tough that you're just undisturbed by it. You become the master of your mind instead of its slave.
But mastering the outer world isn't just about physical stuff. Which leads us to our fourth lesson: you have to understand human nature. And I'm not talking about some academic exercise. This is a critical survival skill for getting through the modern social world.
Think about how the jungle has evolved. Our ancestors, they faced physical threats, right? Predators, rival tribes, the risk of starvation. Today, our biggest dangers are usually psychological and social. We're talking manipulation, office politics, heartbreak, betrayal. To survive, and especially to thrive in this new jungle, you have to understand what makes people tick, their insecurities, their desires, what they really want. And this brings us to the final and honestly the most important section of all, finding your driving force. This is the fifth and final lesson, and it's the one that pulls everything else together. It's about making your purpose, your mission, the absolute #1 priority in your life.
This slide uses a really cool metaphor to explain focus. Think about the difference between a gatherer gaze, which is wide, scanning the whole environment, and a hunter gaze, which locks onto a single target and blurs everything else out. The masculine mind is very often wired for that hunter's gaze.
And that focused gaze creates what you might call a point A to point B mindset. It's this constant internal drive to get from where you are now, point A, an incomplete present, to a better future, point B. This is exactly why a man without a goal, without a mission or a purpose so often feels lost and directionless. He is quite literally built to be striving towards something.
So let's just do a quick recap of the 5 big lessons here. Number 1, respect yourself first. That's your foundation. 2, control your impulses to gain mastery over yourself. 3, do one hard thing every day to build resilience. 4, study human nature so you can navigate the social world. And finally, number 5, make your purpose the ultimate priority that anchors everything else.
Look, these 5 lessons, they give you a kind of map for a very complex world. It's not a quick fix, but it's a solid framework for growth. So the final question really isn't for me, it's for you. Now that you have the map, where are you going to direct your focus first?